Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Recently I was contacted by a very nice brother and he asked me about an ideology I never heard of. The concept is called anti-natalism, and it's about, it's a moral concept claiming that it's morally wrong to have children. So the brother, generally, he asked me how we should respond to this particular ideology. So after thinking about the question of the brother for a while, I had some thoughts I would like to share with you guys. So to clarify, I don't want in this video to speak about anti-natalism in particular, specifically. Rather I want to give you a way how you can understand all these isms and all these seemingly confusing ideologies, how you can understand them better and how you can refute them easily, inshallah. So before we go over to these different ideologies, let's talk about the moral concept in Islam. In Islam, we have a moral concept for what is good and what is bad. For example, giving charity is good and raping is bad. For example, saving a life is something good, and taking a life, in other words, killing, is something bad. This moral concept of us is based on an assumption we are making. And this assumption, this claim you're making is that there is a God, and this God, He created everything, and He is all good, He is the source of all goodness. So everything He commands to is good, and everything He prohibits is bad. So we know our morality based on the commands of this God, and based on the assumption we made. So for our concept of morality, Islamically, for our concept of morality to be true, we should be able to prove this assumption, this claim that there is a God who is all good, who commands to all the good deeds and prohibits all the bad deeds. And alhamdulillah, fortunately we are able to do that, alhamdulillah. We are able to establish proof for this assumption, but it's not the place to talk about that here. But alhamdulillah, if you look in Islamic theology, we can rationally establish God. We have a lot of kinds of different evidences where we can establish this assumption we're making. Upon that, later we base our moral concept on. The reason I'm talking to you about that is I just want to make a comparison here. I want to show you that these ideologies and isms and these maybe confusing seeming ideas, that they are as well based on assumptions. So what I want to point out with this is that for these concepts and ideologies to be true, to be objectively true, like making a moral claim that's not just a matter of personal preference, but something that's objectively right or wrong, then they have to objectively prove these assumptions they're making, their moral concept is based on. Okay? It's the same like you, like our assumption, and we will talk about what the assumptions of the likes of these arguments are, but the burden of proof is upon the claimer. When we claim that we have a moral concept based on God, they have the right to ask us, so what's the evidence? What's your proof that there is a God? Prove me your assumption upon your basing your moral concept on. So we should be able to ask them the same thing. When they're coming with these concepts based on assumption, we're gonna mention in a bit, then we should be able to ask for them for evidence to prove us that their assumptions are objectively true. Upon them they are placing the moral concepts. So what I want you to do when you encounter this kind of people and this kind of atheists with the strangest moral concepts and the other concept of these likes, I want you to stop arguing with them based on the concept, arguing with them on the level of the concept, like is it really good, is it really bad, why is this, why is that. I want you to stop that, and I want you to start to question the assumptions these atheists are making that the whole concept is based upon, because that's the fundament. Because you have to understand, atheists, at least the most of them we encounter, they have a double standard. And that is that when they speak to us, they are very, very quick to attack our assumptions we're basing our morality on and to question them. Like if you're saying that something is bad or good, that doesn't fit in their worldview, then they're gonna mock God and say that this is based on a ridiculous assumption we can't prove, although we can prove it. Okay? So if they're able to do that, why are they acting, or why are we giving them the chance to act as if they're immune to this questioning? The same they are questioning all assumptions we base our concepts on, we should be able to question their assumptions they base their concepts on. So let me give you an example so you can understand this better. You can understand better what I mean. Atheist talker, public speaker, Sam Harris, and you know him, he's one of the horsemen of New Atheism. He is as well a follower of scientism. That scientism means that science is the only way to discover truth. Okay, we can only be sure about something through science, and this is a whole other topic: why this is false and how to refuse this ideology. But you can refuse this ideology with the same way I want to teach you here. So anyway, he says that we are not in need, because there's a problem about morality with atheists, because they can't have a moral anchor. And you can watch my video, Evil and Atheism, to understand that, inshallah. But what I want to say is that Sam Harris came with this concept that we don't need religion to prove morals. We can derive morals from science itself. Okay, so what he said is, we observe the human being, and we looked at anything that improves the well-being of the human being. We can check that scientifically. Then this is morally good, and anything that harms the well-being of the human, and we can check this scientifically as well, then this is going to be bad. So the assumption I want to show you that this moral concept of Sam Harris is based upon is that anything that improves our well-being is morally good, and anything that harms our well-being is morally bad. This is the assumption he's making. And if you look at his arguments when he bring forward this concept, he don't argue for the assumption. He argues is it as if they take the assumption as granted, and then they just jump arguing about the concept based on an assumption they never brought any evidence for. So my point here is, instead of, and this counts for all similar ideologies to this, not only for this particular example, but just an example to show you, instead of question the concept itself and can really science find out, can science, go back to the assumption, because the assumption of this concept is based on is the fundament. If they fail to prove it, and the burden of proof is on them, then the whole argument will fall apart. And it's going to be much easier for you, because you don't have to do anything. You just have to ask for evidence. You have just to question this assumption and ask for evidence. And if they fail to provide it, then you had the easy job refuting the argument. Just as they question everything, we should be able to question everything as well. I mean, come on, we can't let them get away with the double standard fallacy. Okay, so if they say our morals are derived from our well-being, then we have the best right to ask why. Okay, and don't get fooled in this, because sometimes you agree. Maybe like Sam Harris, maybe he says rape is wrong based on his concept, not based on yours, and we agree that rape is wrong, but not because of the same reason of him, and not based on his assumption. So just because you agree that with the fact that rape is wrong, don't let him get away with this whole concept. You still have the right to question his assumption. Okay, for me, rape is wrong because I'm basing my moral concept on God, on objective morality. I have the right to ask you on what basis are you saying that rape is wrong, or any other similar deed. The same counts for the argument I discussed with the brother, the anti-natalism argument. The argument is based upon assumptions. Some of these assumptions are that the base assumptions, the fundamental assumptions of this concept are that suffering is bad, suffering is something bad, and well-being or pleasure is something good. So we have the right again. Why? Prove me that suffering really is something bad and pleasure is something good. We have the right to question these assumptions. And there are other assumptions like this. But what I want to say is the whole argument is based upon these things. And these assumptions are rarely discussed. So, yeah, that's just what I wanted to show you here. The next time you discuss with any of them bringing these strange ideas and these confusing ideas, don't discuss with them about the concept too much. Don't question them about the idea itself too much. Look where this idea goes back to. Look at the assumptions that are at the bottom of the concept, and look what the concept is based upon, and try to attack that. And like I said before, the burden of proof, to bring proof for these assumptions, lies on the maker of the claim and of the speaker about this concept. So if he fails to prove it, then you don't even need to talk about the rest of the argument. And since objective values are something that are impossibly proven under atheism, because you need God to prove objective values, then that makes all their concepts and all their moral ideas, that makes them to subjective concepts and to subjective ideas. And subjective means like it's just a personal opinion. And we have objective morality. We know that it is bad, 100%. It doesn't matters in what time, it doesn't matters in what place. If it's in the future or in the past, it's going to be always bad. Things like rape, things like killing. So we don't need the personal opinions of some atheists or some other people when we have objective values. So that's it, brothers and sisters. Thank you for watching. I just wanted to share this with you, and it's nothing very special, but it's just advice for you to think more critically when these people speak to you. Just don't take everything what they say for granted. And just as they are very skeptical and they're very attacking everything we say, we can do the same. And we can be very confident about that, because we can prove our assumption we're basing our concepts on, and they can't, because it's impossible to prove objective values under atheism without the concept of God. So we're on the safe side. The burden of proof lies upon them when they bring any of these strange concepts. So yeah, brothers, inshallah, I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope in future when you encounter these kind of things, you will know better how to deal with them. And thank you for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.